Okay, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another thrilling edition of the first edition of, I don't know, let's write a fucking screenplay, something like that. I have no idea what we're going to title this yet as an ongoing series. We're going to write a screenplay, and we are doing so with Alan Watts' book. Not Alan Watts, I believe, philosopher, but Alan Watt. His book, Alan Watts' book, The 90-Day Screenplay. It's going to be a little messy, I think, but I'm pretty confident in this idea. John Algetz, I've had that book for a few years now, but I don't think I've ever actually cracked it open. Well, buddy, we're going to crack it open, something fierce. Not literally, because I only have it on Kindle, but we do have it. In fact, it's right... let me add it to the stage. Yeah, we actually have it right here. I've been kind of going through, doing some highlights. We are going to go through this book chapter by chapter. We're going to skip the first chunk and just focus on the days. He basically goes into dilemma and character and how dilemma informs character early in the book. So I started a film earlier this year. Actually, technically I started it in December of last year. So it's been about a year since we actually first started shooting. But there was a period of time between that shoot and the next shoot. It all kind of got scrambled up, and I had some issues on the production this year that just led, well, actually both years. I had problems with production that led to me kind of shuffling it away. And I now have about 30 to 40 odd minutes of footage, edited footage, that I don't know what to do with because it is not a whole. And at first I was going to just rewrite the script to facilitate new shoots with actors who have changed, with new actors, with different locations that have changed, et cetera, et cetera. And I think there is a potential there to get something done and to make a movie that actually works, but I don't know that I would ever be satisfied with it. And that's something that I've come to realize about myself is I can't just shit out movies. I really wish I could. I really want to be a David Dakota and just shit things out. I find that so fascinating, but I am terrible at it. I get so in my own head, and I get so into a specific project, and I wind up, and this is what happened with Deathface, and this is what happened for every movie, honestly, that I've ever done. I just let that elongate the process, and it went from, we're going to shut this out real fast, to, a year and a half later, oh, why can't we just get the movie done? And that's no good. So what I've decided is, in lieu of throwing out this movie, which is called Twink of the Damned, in lieu of throwing it out, I'm just going to take all that footage and make it a movie within a movie. And that still means I'll have to throw out a lot of footage because I'm not going to show all 40-odd minutes. But a lot of that 40-odd minutes is a little boring, to be honest, because I was trying to make a 1313 style film, which, if you don't know what that is, 1313 is a film series that David Dakota directed that they're I would say objectively bad films. But I thought there was a fascinating angle there that I really wanted to pick up on. And I'm not that filmmaker, and that frustrates me to no end, but it's not who I am. So I have to move past that. And we're going to make a movie about making movies. And I got this idea partially from reading Alan Watts' book. Let's pop this up real quick. Oh, right. Actually, story maxim number 1 works. And I highlighted all the maxims that he put out. But story maxim number 1, the purpose of story is to reveal a transformation. And I think it's simple. It's not exactly, I want to get across right from the get-go here. This book is not going to reinvent the wheel for you. I do suggest picking up the book and reading it if you haven't. The link is in the description. It's actually a sponsored link. Not that it's like 4% that I get back in commission, so it's not going to do me any real favors. But either way, I put the link in the description for the book. It is, I think, $5 on Kindle. I haven't finished the book. I've kind of skimmed it. I went to the back where he has the prompts and what have you. I only really picked this book because of the 90 days thing. I felt like that was a good gimmick. So yeah, Casey, we're gonna make one cut of the dead, but gayer. That's what we're gonna do. It's actually not the worst description of this idea. The purpose of story is to reveal a transformation. So this is the bit that really, I had already kind of had this idea, and then I read this very simple story maxim that Alan Watt has written in his book, and it just spoke to me in a very direct way. The desire to write is connected to the desire to resolve something we seek to understand. And I very much seek to understand who I am as a filmmaker, which sounds, as I say it, extremely self-serving. But that is what I seek to understand is, I don't know who I am as a filmmaker, as a storyteller. If I did, I wouldn't have all these problems that I keep running into. So why not utilize the storytelling process as written in this book? Why not utilize that process to figure out my problem? And so my idea is to write a story that goes through the process of making a film in the style that I do. That is to say, extremely low budget to no budget. It's a shoestring movie about making a shoestring movie, ideally with a little bit more money than our characters have. Michael Keane's 8.5. Kinda, yeah. I want to do one of those projects that forces me to open myself up. And the other side to that is I'd like to open myself up in front of you all. I want this to be for an audience. I'm going to try, I don't know that, don't hold me to this because I'm going to try to make this as easy on myself as possible. So I'm not going to give myself too many dictums other than to follow the guide and write a script. And in fact, we might even find ourselves moving off the path of the guide and just into a new path. I don't know. The goal is within 90 days, I want a script. If we get that script written in 60 days, amazing. If we get that script written in 30 days, even better. But I want to write a script and I want it to be done and ready to go in 90 days. So that means we'll have to write the script, we'll have to rewrite the script, and we'll have to have a final-ish draft done. I think that 90 days is a good chunk of time to do that, especially when you have as many problems as I do with time management. Let's skip on ahead now. If you have this book, go ahead and open it up. If you don't have this book, you can follow along without it, but I do recommend buying it, if only because it's a resource that I'll be using again and again, and it's only fair to the writer to buy it. So we're in week 1. This week we're inquiring into the nature of our premise and allowing images and ideas to emerge. This is primarily a right brain process. When we allow our subconscious time to play without imposing structural limitations, our characters often surprise us, leading to more dynamic possibilities for our screenplay. Now, I am cheating a bit here because I believe Alan Watt designed this book for someone who does not necessarily have much more than an inkling of an idea for their story, and I definitely have more than that. I have a lot of this story already kind of figured out in my noggin, but I want to go through the process anyway and see if maybe it reveals something else, if it gives me better ideas, and I just want to show this process to you, the audience, and go through it. This is essentially a challenge series. It's a let's see if we can write a screenplay in 90 days or less challenge. And please, if you have a screenplay that you want to write, if you have a story in your heart, then please follow along with me and write your story. Do as I do, make my mistakes, and come to my resolutions to those mistakes, and let's write a script. I'm not going to read everything in this book, partly because I feel weird about that. It seems odd to... It's just, it's a book that you can buy. But I have highlighted little sections here and there. This is another one. The insights that make our work unique often arrive as happy accidents. That's the part that's sort of what's keeping me glued to this concept of following the 90-day screenplay is I would like to just kind of fuck around and find out, you know? Let's see here. While doing this, we must give ourselves permission to write poorly. This is another important note. We, and when I say we, I mean myself and whoever goes through this process with me out there in the interwebs, we are going to write like total shit. We're going to write garbage. And that is the most terrifying aspect of this. I am not going to ask you to share your garbage writing. I'm more than happy to hear about it, of course, but feel free to keep that to yourself, because I know that the hardest part of this is me starting a stream on the daily and being like, I'm going to write absolute dickin' garbage in front of however many people. Thank the Lord that my stream is not super popular, because we are going to be writing some absolute dick shit. And that is part of the process. Anyone who's ever written anything and successfully finished, you know what I'm talking about. It starts off kind of rough. Writing isn't something that happens outside of our experience. We can use our actual lives to inform our work. That's another one that speaks to me, because this is going to be me kind of taking back control of myself from wherever the fuck I've wound up, and better understanding who I am, and taking from my own experiences to write this movie. I already have several ideas for sequences in the film that are basically just funnier versions of things that have happened to me, which I think should work out pretty well. He talks about stream of consciousness writing, which there is a list of prompts in the back of the book. And he finishes the initial chapter or initial day by saying, we can always change it later, but it is only through making choices that we discover either why it belongs or how it leads us toward a more satisfying choice. And yeah, you can write what you think will work all day long, but in order to find the right balance, you have to write or create something that isn't quite whole, isn't quite right. And by doing that and just writing and writing and writing, you refine. It's the old turning coal into diamonds or whatever analogy. You got to work at it. What if the screenplay you write on this ends up becoming something really successful in 5 years' time? That would be sick as fuck. That's what that would be. That would be wild bananas. I would be more than happy for that to be the case. Regarding whether or not this will be successful, I would love for this to be successful, obviously. What I've come to realize, this is going to sound kind of shitty. I don't mean it to be, but it's going to sound a little shitty. I've talked to a lot of people about their work, and almost all the time when you're on like a low budget production, like I was on a film, it was a horror film, and they were talking about posting spoilers. Like, you can take pictures, but don't post them on social media, that kind of thing, which is fair. That there's nothing wrong with that. But it got me thinking, oh yeah, you can not post pictures. That's fine. But who cares, really? We're making a movie that almost like 99 out of 100 times, no one's going to care about. And by no one's going to care about, I mean, it's going to be something that a few people watch, and the vast majority of people never know it exists. That's how my movies are. Most people are never going to know about Fatal Future. Most people are never going to know about The Head. Most people will never know about Dr. Deathface, which is coming out. Trust me, it's not all in my hands. But no one is, Twink of the Damned, no one is ever going, like, it's not going to be something that everyone knows. I'm not making mainstream movies. I'm never working on mainstream movies. And the simple fact is, most people don't give a 2/10 of a shit, 2/10 of a shit, 1/5 of a shit about your project, because it's your project. It's not James Gunn's Superman. Everybody, like, that's something where the spoilers are locked down for good reason, because people care en masse. And people don't really care en masse about my work or most of the work that I work on. And there's nothing wrong with that. I actually think it's kind of nice to be sequestered into a niche. But when I hear people say, oh, be careful, we don't want to spoil anything, or we don't want any spoilers to get out, no one's No one's fucking hunting down spoilers for your movie. I'm sure it's good, and I'm sure that people will enjoy it. I do not think a lot of people are going to watch it, and I don't think anyone is scouring the internet for spoilers on this movie. Just like no one is scouring the internet for Dr. Deathface spoilers. No one cares in the grand scheme. There are people who care, but in the grand scheme, no one cares. So that's kind of my mindset here as far as how I'm approaching making this movie. This is going to be sort of an open source movie. This is going to be a film that you are going to see the full process from the very beginning, which is today, all the way to the end. Obviously, there's going to be some jumps here and there. I'm not going to stop myself from writing on my off time, for example. If I decide I really want to sit outside and write without any distractions, I'm going to do that because I'm not going to let anything get in the way of completing the project. In that case, I will simply update through these live streams what has changed, what I've added, what I've done, etc. I'm going to try to be as open as possible. And that's the experiment that I think I'd like to complete with this series, is complete film as open as humanly possible. Or can I request a scene that takes place at a seedy barbecue joint called Big Daddy Keen's Barbecue? I mean, maybe. Like, I'm not against it, to be honest. Bring that back up in like 30 days. Speaking of which, and I know that I'm going back and forth and everywhere in between. This is a little daunting. I'm going to be honest. It's a little daunting. So if you go to the table of contents, you can see it's not until day 29 that we write the first draft. So we're going to be doing a lot of busy work up to that point. And I do intend on going through this day by day. I'm not against the idea of pushing some of the days together if it feels right. That won't happen today because I'm already wasting a lot of time with the setup. But we're going to try to go through this step by step as it's written. And I'm going to try to keep slightly ahead. If you look all the way through that table of contents, you'll see in the back of the book, there are writing exercises, story structure questions, and a worksheet. We'll get into that as well at some point. So we have some exercises for the day. Number 1 is to write for 10 minutes with the story prompt, "My story is about ... Okay, perfect place to start. And then as your protagonist, write for 5 minutes. Now, I don't know. I feel like a dunderhead, but I'm not sure if he means 5 minutes for each of these or 5 minutes total. And then we have homework for the week, which is spend roughly half hour each day working on the daily writing exercises, and then spend at least half an hour a day imagining the world of your story. This one I'm less concerned about because I already have the world imagined, but let's start off with that. My story is about. So what's my story about? My story is about a filmmaker who finds himself... Oh, get ready for me to completely clusterfuck my typing as well. That's going to be a fun part of this process. My story is about a filmmaker who finds himself incapable of finishing a low-rent production. Basically, let's see, he struggles with budget, cast, locations, and a killer on the loose. And that's a big part of this. It is a murder or a slasher film at its heart because I am not going to do anything that's not genre. Come on. So the basic idea that I have is it is this filmmaker who's he's a gay filmmaker. I decided to change that because the film within the film is about gay shit, essentially. It made sense to make the filmmaker gay. So about a gay filmmaker, we should probably come up with a name for him at some point. If any of y'all, by the way, if y'all have any names, if you have any name suggestions, let me know in the comments. We won't settle on anything just yet, but Yeah, let's come up with something. He struggles with budget, cast locations, and a killer on the loose. I don't know how to write for 10 minutes about this. Let's see. My story is about a gay filmmaker who finds himself incapable of finishing a low-rent production, budget, cast locations, and a killer on the loose. Let's see. Call him Wakefield. Ah, that would be great. But that feels a little on the nose. I'm gonna be honest. Maybe it's just because I guess not a lot of people know who Wakefield Poole is. How about John Wakefield? Or Jack Wakefield or something like that. That might be good. So the budget on the first half of the production has been completely utilized on superfluous equipment and amenities. That's not exactly what happened, but why can't I spell amenities? There we go. But that's close enough. I did waste all of my money that I intended on using for the production on things that I really didn't need for the most part. Things that I could have come up with a creative way around it. And I think that's kind of what the arc is going to be for this character, is recognizing that despite not having any money and limited resources, it's about imagination rather than, how big your pocketbook is, which is a little simple, but maybe throughout these exercises, we'll learn more about that. So the budget on the first half of the production has been completely utilized on superfluous equipment and amenities, and one cast member has disappeared completely, unbeknownst to, if you call him Josh, he can have an exasperated mother, refuses to give him any more help, and starts with an exasperated, damn it, Joshua. Let's see how these look. Josh Wakefield. Here's a question. Do I look like a Josh Wakefield? Because I'll probably be playing the character. Which, by the way, if you've ever want to see me make out with guys, this is going to be a great experience for you. Let's call him Josh Wakefield for now, and then we'll get back around to it. The cast member Greg has been murdered by a masked psychopath. And I'm going to tell you right now, we already know who the killer is, so might as well. That psychopath is a bartender at the local gay dive. So the cast member Greg is probably going to be one of the few non-gay performers, but I could maybe change that a bit. Either way, he's going to be gone pretty early, so it doesn't matter. That psychopath is a bartender, at the local gay dive. It's not a dive, local gay bar, who watches in sadness as the production from his favorite indie filmmaker falls apart, leading to him taking out those he believes are responsible. My thought process here is... I should put that on a shirt. My thought process here, I think that there's great opportunity for conflict to have multiple arguments between Josh Wakefield and his crew and cast, and those arguments leading to the murders, which then shines a light on Josh and makes him a red herring and suspect. So my story is about a gay filmmaker named Josh Wakefield. I actually like Josh Wakefield. The more I'm saying it, the more I like it. Who finds himself incapable of finishing a low-rent production. He struggles with budget, cast, location, and a killer on the loose. The budget on the first half of the production has been completely utilized on superfluous equipment and amenities, and one cast member has disappeared completely. Unbeknownst to Josh, the cast member, Greg, has been murdered by a masked psychopath. That psychopath is a bartender at the local gay bar who watches in sadness as the production from his favorite indie filmmaker falls apart, leading to him taking out those he believes are responsible. The realization inevitably will be that the only one responsible for the problems is Josh, who as writer, director, producer has failed to adequately utilize his resources and has inadvertently resigned himself to failure rather than success. Which I feel like is my defining problem, is I tend to let failure take over, which is no good. I'm not sure exactly, and this is a problem for another day, but I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to get past the problem of there being no money. I don't want to get too bogged down in the getting money aspect of the film. I'd rather focus on the actual production part of it, but whatever. We'll figure that out. The film is about the storytelling process and the importance of always taking one step forward. I think that I want to go with the slasher formula where we don't realize, or the main characters don't realize there's a killer on the loose until it's kind of too late. And so, like, Greg, the actor, will disappear, and it can be something as simple as, oh, he's probably off doing more, I don't know, booty videos or something, or he's off with his baby mama or something. And so this will probably take place. I think this will have to take place over the. Oh! I remember now. I had a way of getting through this problem, which is how to get past the problem of like cops and delving into the mystery and stuff that's going to bog the story down. I don't want to get too deep into that bullshit, because this is at the end of the day about making a movie. So he also, rather than success, the investor for the film is threatening to sue Josh into oblivion if he doesn't have a finished film within a week, which is a ludicrous timetable, but for a film works. And this way, when Greg dies, there's ample time, or there's not ample time for people to realize that he's missing, just that he didn't show up for the day, if that makes sense. So the killer is inadvertently sabotaging the production instead of helping, which that's another thing that's going to have to be worked out, because it doesn't make entirely all the sense in the world. Again, that's why we have a 90-day timetable and not a week timetable. So the investor for the film is threatening to sue Josh into oblivion if he doesn't have a finished film within a week. It's always nice to have a ticking clock. Our ticking clock is, we have a week to to finish this film. What can we do? Which is a facsimile of my own problem with Twink, in so much as I really want to have it done so I can move on to the next thing. But I don't have an investor or anything to make that tangible. And so if we add in an investor who, let's say put in $10,000, I think that's a good amount for something cheap and shoestring and bullshit. Put in like $10,000 to make this straight to Tubi film. So he's going to sue Josh into oblivion for the $10,000 plus interest. Let's say $20,000. He's going to sue him for $20,000, and there's no way in hell that Josh can win that kind of fight. So he has to have a finished film within a week. Anyway, so we've got our my story is about. I'm not sure we're really getting across the dilemma as Alan Watt would want. If Alan would like to come on the stream, though, and talk about these things, I certainly welcome him to do that. We can just keep this document going and see some progress as we go as well. So that's part one, right, for 10 minutes. So 2 A is the greatest thrill of my life was when. Okay, so this is as our protagonist, right? For 5 minutes, the greatest thrill of my life was when. The greatest thrill of my life was when. For the sake of simplicity, he makes movies like I make, which are extremely no budget, just like straight to streaming. This is a guy who has like made The Head in 2019 and then kept pumping out movies like The Head. I think is kind of where I'm going. Josh Wakefield is basically he's more of the Amityville Karen type demographic as far as directors go. Only gay shit. He makes gay garbage. Let's see. The greatest thrill of my life was when I picked up a film camera for the first time and shot real film. That I don't know. Like, this is tough. This is already tough. I don't know what to fucking write. Hear me out. What if Josh knows who the killer is, but because he has this deadline on the film, he's trying to knuckle through before calling the cops? That's interesting. That's interesting. I'm not going to throw that out. That's actually that is interesting. That's another one to come back to. Yeah, actually, Tia, that's good. Ed Wood, but gayer. And yeah, he is. Yeah, he's like David Dakota. He is. If you took me and David Dakota and we did a little fusion dance, that's who this character would be. But I think I could make the argument. Let's see, if we shoot, I don't know if I want to shoot on the Blackmagic or on the Sony. If we shoot on the Sony, then we can use the Blackmagic as a prop camera. And we can say that I bought an Ursa. We can say that I bought some lights, stands, audio equipment. What else do I have that's useful and valuable? I have an underwater housing that I did buy for Twink of the Damned. I also, the worst thing is I bought a viewfinder for the Ursa, but I bought it off of eBay because I didn't have the money for the full priced version, and it immediately crapped out on me. So I wish I'd taken that money and invested it in time and energy rather than equipment, which does suggest, like, if that's the biggest regret and we're picking up the story after he's already shot this chunk of footage, I guess we can, like, the first act, he can have that epiphany. Problem is I need a struggle that's internal for the full film. The external struggle is simple. We got to make a movie in a week. Easy. I need to find the internal struggle because I'm realizing what I originally thought would be the internal struggle is that realization that money is not everything and that you can make a movie or a piece of art without spending money. But I feel like that's something that'll be realized pretty fast in the script. That's tough. Let's go ahead and just move to the next one. I might return to see my childhood dream was to make movies. Duh. Come on. Easy peasy. And then to D, when I look in the mirror, I see, oh boy. What do I see? I see a fat asshole. That's what I see. Let's see. What does the character see? In the mirror, I see a failure. Let's see, but this version of the character has made multiple movies and has a small fan base. That's important. The character has to have a small fan base. That's how the killer comes about, is he's a fan. Okay, so when I look in the mirror, I see a failure with very little to show for himself beyond a few straight to streaming piles of garbage. This is going to be, oh God, this is going to be hard because I'm also coming at this as a marginalized character. But I am not a marginalized person. This is, oof. I'm going to have to get some help at some point on this from the gays, which I know I have a few gays, a few LGBTQIAs, whatever, in the audience. So definitely could use some help. Just call me out when I fuck something up or when I say something that comes off as a straight guy being gay, because I don't want to do that. So I'm Definitely not going to do like the full 5-minute exercises. I think that's okay. If you're following along with your own script, I recommend trying to do the write for 5 minutes. I just don't know. I don't have anything right now. I'm not feeling it, but I'm going to keep going either way. But I think this is a good start. We have a basic storyline, and we know roughly who this character is. So notes, we'll add a little notes section each day, maybe, that will kind of be a substitute for writing for 5 minutes or 10 minutes on a given subject. Just because it's not something that comes naturally to me. I don't see I don't know. I don't see the point in writing all that long. And I think that's partly because I already know mostly who this character is. And so it seems kind of obvious, which I should be able to just get out of my brain and onto paper. But I'm not. At some point, this needs to be said in Act 1. I feel like that's important. We need a comedic bit about a big black cock. We need a comedic bit about a big black black cock. Just because we already have multiple shots of a big black cock. This is not going to be a family film. We need an attempt at underwater photography that goes poorly. I don't know how it goes poorly, but jokes about using the same house for every movie, which is true not only of my films, but of David Dakota's films. Oh, let's Frankenstein this fucker is a line that I definitely want, because they are Frankensteining a film together. We need an explanation for the time skip between the initial shoot and current shoot. Could be lack of funds. Seems reasonable. Oh, there's a character who will be played by the lovely Tia Bean. I don't know what her character name will be yet. I was promised a death scene, and she gets one, literally. Let's see. Gay twink bartender as the killer. Already kind of have that in the description. I also have a friend. So I have a friend who's in the movie who is rapidly losing weight. And so I'd like to play with that. And I would like to say to him, why couldn't you just stay fat? Because that's one problem that I think I will have with this. Or that's one problem I was contending with, was everyone's changing their appearance in not terribly subtle ways in between the shoots. And I've had that problem before with the head. I had this great bit, and I think I've talked about this before. I had this great bit where James Nickerson, he had gotten his hair cut and it was way too short. And we wound up we wound up cutting all of his remaining scenes. But there was this bit I was going to have where he was forced to wear a MAGA hat for all of his scenes to hide the fact that he had a haircut. He's one of my most liberal friends, so that's why it was funny. But we wound up cutting that. So my childhood dream thing was to make movies. Specifically, I wanted to make movies that show who I was to the world and were accepting of LGBTQIA, is that right? Issues. To have the character just making this garbage again and again that just goes straight to streaming that no one gives a fuck about would be tough for someone whose childhood dream was to make these kind of important movies. And also, I want to point out, like, this is all stuff that, obviously you're seeing because we're streaming this, but the beauty of this project is this is all stuff that no one has to see for your project. You can go on forever and ever and just write whatever you want. And this is stuff no one sees. This is all background material for the final project, for the final script. Actually, not even for the final script. This is all background material for the initial script, which then will be background material for the final script. So This is all stuff that's never going out into the world if you're following along. So be as bare and open as you possibly can. I wanted to make... I feel like this is a little stupid, but I wanted to make a difference. And do for a living, or do what I loved for a living, which is movies. And I loved cinema. Oh, cinema. I feel like we've talked enough that we've done what we need to for the day. So I'm going to say that this is a pretty good starting point. It's not perfect, but it's a good starting point. So that is, yeah, I think that's a good starting point. Tomorrow we'll do day 2. Yeah, that's day 1. In the comments, if you guys could tell me what you think of this project, why it's boring, why it's not boring, anything at all. I just would like as much response as possible so that I can make this mildly entertaining. Yeah, I don't know what people find fascinating and what they don't, because I am incapable of reading people. So let me know if this is entertaining at all. And also let me know if you're going to be writing along with me. And if you've read the book by Alan Watt, let me know about that. Just get in the comments and boost my fucking algorithm. God damn it. And we will be back next time to talk about more Twink of the Damned. I think we've started off on a strong foot, and I look forward to continuing this tomorrow. But until next time, guys, go make a movie.
It's gonna take me some time to give you all that is mine. I'm looking ultra fine from your view from behind. It's gonna take me some time to give you all that is mine. I'm looking ultra fine from your view from behind. As my phone, working play out. You got what's coming, you gonna shout. Sit right down, boy, hands in a cup. I'm gonna show you exactly what's up. Gonna give you that
Booty flavor.
You're loving my
Booty flavor.
straight savage.
Booty flavor.